Just okay, well, good evening, everybody, and welcome to this evening's forum. We're delighted that so many of you have committed this hour to reflecting on a topic that recent events, namely a problem with evictions coming up due to a pandemic, and all kind of interesting things happen have again thrust us into a situation where we want to learn more about what we can do. My name is Father Regis Smolko, and I am the priest in charge at St. Brendan's. In June, as some of you already know, St. Brendan's responded to the death of George Floyd and many, many other Black women and men by posting a banner outside our church that simply stated, St. Brendan's believes Black lives matter. To our surprise, we received almost 50 phone calls within the first 3 days of that. Now it's probably over 100 that we have received, and email messages critical of what we've done. So this evening's forum grows out of our experience this summer, and this is the fourth in a series of events that we will now have put forward to our neighborhood and our friends, to allow us to continue our banner up, because we need to have an event connected with it. And so this is our fourth event. And so what this gives us a chance to do is to express our key beliefs around some of these issues as a matter of our faith. So this evening in particular, we're looking forward to explore the eviction crisis amid the pandemic. And we will shortly hear from our panelists, each of whom has his and her perspective on the topic. And then later in the program, we will open the discussion up to questions from the audience. And you can send your questions or your comments at any time, and you can notice at the bottom of the screen that there's a place to do that, or with some of you on the top of the screen, or you can just type them in the chat window and we will get them. I will help us to stay organized and on time for this evening. So let me introduce just real briefly the organization by name. So it's PURR, and Jacob is going to be one of our speakers, and Jacob's last name is Klinger, and he's going to introduce the president of the organization, Jayla Rucker, and then I'm going to be asking them to take the stage and explain to us what the crisis is in Pittsburgh, how we can help, what they're doing, and we'll go from there. So Jacob, if you could take the reins right now and introduce your organization and introduce for us Kayla, and we'll take our move from there.
Yeah, can y'all hear me okay?
Yes.
Yep. Yeah, you're good.
Okay, good. Yeah, first of all, thank you. The Pittsburgh Union of Regional Renters was started as a project out of the Land People's Alliance. In late 2015, tasked with the idea of raising up a countywide tenants union. That is what has been done and is an ongoing project. But we believe some really simple things. It would be cool if this wasn't locking up my whole screen right now, to be honest with you. But we believe that housing is a human right. We are also an advocacy group. We spend a lot of time just trying to serve people wherever they are. And yeah, what we want is for people to know their rights, and how we go about it, or rather how we go about that means working towards, not just housing as a human right is the thing that we say, but broad expansions of social housing. We want tenant ownership. We want right to counsel for tenants. In the same way, you have right to counsel in a criminal situation. We want landlords and the government to stop killing people for being poor, and we want liberation in that. It's not enough to simply work around the edges and try and make it a little better. Like, as we go through this, we are constantly trying to build things that will make these problems not a problem in the future and ones that we can solve ourselves, because systems do not just fail tenants. They're actively weaponized against them, and they're built to do just that. This is the point in the slideshow where I would show you a bunch of photos of Jayla, but because I can't do that right now, I will. Y'all can't see me anymore, can you? You
no,
can hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. You might need to, tap under the video, because I think we're on your just your profile.
That's so. I mean, as long as you can hear me, I'm gonna keep.
We can hear you. Yeah.
So, all right, cool. Jayla's like been in it the longest. I've learned a lot from Jayla. Sometimes you see people on TV or in the newspapers or whatever talking about the issue of the day folks are caring and pretending to care about. When you see and hear from Jayla, it's because someone actually got to someone who is in there and out there every day. She is the president of her own tenants council, the Manchester Tenants Council. She was working with Ronell Guy, our founder, who started PURR well before PURR was even a thing. Informally, formally, organizationally, you name it. She has not just been out there, but is out there. And so when we talk about these things, they are not abstract. They're like that which consumes her every day. And yeah, shoot, y'all, like, she's a mother of 5. And I don't want to say, like, all the stuff you usually hear about, oh, she never stops. But, like, yeah, this work never stops. And it takes a lot of different forms for her in terms of connecting resources with families, resources with youth, resources with their legal rights, what have you. It is all encompassing. It is what Jayla does. And so anytime I get a chance to talk to her about any of that, I know I'm taking notes, and luckily we get to talk a lot. So I am really glad for y'all to get to hear from her. If I get access to the visuals back, I might show you some later. But for now, I think it's time y'all hear from Ms. Jayla Rucker, and less so from me.
So Jacob, when I'm done, if you can get into the data about the demographics, that would be great.
Would you like me to speak to that now without the visuals?
You can speak to that now without the visuals, and then if you can pull them up and just screen share it while I'm in the middle of speaking, then that would be fine too. But I would definitely like for you to speak on that now.
Okay. So I will show you the map. It's some like pretty cool state-of-the-art stuff. But basically the way Allegheny County works is that over the last 10, 20 years, but certainly even further back, this is where we have data for, there are more evictions against Black people. That means there are less Black people in the city and in places where resources are at. Those evictions send people further away than they do when they happen in other places. They have worse effects on those neighborhoods in terms of more evictions following. They happen more quickly, they happen more readily, they happen more costly, both in terms of like finance and rehousing folks and in human lives. And to sort of bring things home to the now, the thing that has sort of made this particularly salient for folks in this moment to pay attention is the COVID. And simply put, it is very hard to shelter in place if you have no shelter in which to place yourself. And so it is not surprising to folks who've been out there and in it that the hospitalization rates among Black folks are way higher than they are for anyone else in Allegheny County, pretty consistently. The death rate's similarly higher. And this is just a factor of like how this society and like the sometimes complicated, sometimes very not complicated real estate marriage with the government has chosen to, put a location price on people's lives. And that's not new. But it's putting more people 6 feet under than it has for a while more quickly than it's usually able to. We don't think the powers that be necessarily mind that. And I will show you that very starkly just as soon as I undo my computer screen. But that's the terrain, and that's what we're fighting about. And yeah, I'm going to let Jayla take it from there.
So good evening, everyone. My name is Jayla Rucker.
I do.
I'm a member and leader of PUR, Pittsburgh Union of Regional Renters. First, I would like to thank Jacob. Thank you so much, Jacob, for the information you provided. Also, thank you, Regis and Karen, for allowing us to be able to speak to your congregation and inform them about the things that PUR stands for and what we're here for. So I'm gonna give you guys a quick update just to piggyback a little bit on the things that Jacob was explaining to everyone of who I am. So I got into tenant organizing and wanting to build tenant power because about 5 years ago, I lived in affordable housing, and I didn't live in sustainable housing that had quality of life. There was rodents running around. I lived amongst mold. I had children that was being affected to these conditions that were in the house. I had poor maintenance. It was just a lot of things going on in my community. My home became an eyesore to me. Like there was days I would come home and I would be like just depressed. So, you know, I started going to community meetings around the communities. You know, I started going around knocking on neighbors' doors and asking them what was some of the maintenance issues and things that they were experiencing inside of their unit, you know, so we can comparison on things that we was experiencing. So that's how I got into actually tenant advocacy. So, and that went on for, I'll say about maybe 2 years. And then we built a tenant union amongst me and the residents that live in the property that I resided in. And then I was became the president of the tenant council. And by us doing that, you know, numbers represent power. And you can only do things with numbers. So we were able to get a private owned property turned over to public housing, which Housing Authority came in. They did inspections on our units and things like that. And we were able to get a lot of updates and better maintenance and just a better quality of life and sustainable, affordable units that we were currently staying in. So that's how I actually became a member of PUR and the Landless People's Alliance. So I'm gonna tell you a little more about the Landless People's Alliance and PUR, Pittsburgh Union of Regional Renters. So the Pittsburgh Union of Regional Renters, we are an organized group of tenants that work with tenants to provide support and sustainability for effective tenant incentives. The union, we provide strong independent tenant campaigns, organizations, and we provide direct counseling with renters to provide a pathway to tenants with habitability issues, evictions, and mobility issues. So we would like to bridge the gaps with tenants and letting them know that renters have rights and responsibilities, you know, so they can start challenging their barriers and their affordable rental properties that they currently reside in, so they can have quality, affordable housing. So that's just a little bit about PUR. Like we're a mobile unit, we're a region, so we're through the whole Allegheny County. We assist families through the whole Allegheny County. And I'm going to move on a little more into what's been going on during this pandemic, things that we've been facing during this pandemic, so Black and brown people has always been experiencing this crisis when it comes to evictions and having affordable and sustainable housing. You know, but since COVID hit, this pandemic started back in March, this crisis has become an underlying issues for all people of colors and race. It's not just Black and brown folks, you know. So it has affected everyone's family. So there are a lot of barriers out here right now when it comes to families. Single mothers, the most. Single mothers are the ones that have been affected the most since COVID and long before COVID. But since COVID, single mothers can't go to work. We have no childcare. There is a lack of transportation out here. There is a shortage on food insecurities. So we have been doing all these round table meetings with other organizations and Judge Kim Clark, other organizations, PHFA, Neighborhood Legal Services, Rent Help PGH, and we've been building these round tables so that we can put some policies into place and put some stipulations on families that are going to be facing evictions because they can't work, they can't pay their rent, they can barely eat. So if you don't have any shelter, that actually, I'm gonna use the word shelter. If you don't have shelter, everything else that falls under shelter, you're just in a crisis. So that's the reason that we wanted to do this pledge tonight, because we were hoping that the members of this congregation could assist families during this crisis with things like rent, keeping their utilities connected, helping waive court cost fees, keeping their just keeping their phones on, just having simple household essentials around the home. And if families lose shelter, as we know, children are working remotely from home. It's not just affecting the adults in the household, regardless if you don't have dependents in your house. If you're just a single individual, it's affecting them as well. If you don't have no shelter, you can't eat, you can't sleep, you can't go to work, I can't shower. So we were hoping that by us doing this pledge tonight, that we could get some assistance from you guys to help us help these families during this crisis to stay above water, you know, and just be able to keep their utilities connected, keep a roof over their head or their children's head or their family's head. Because if not, you know what? We're going to have family members sleeping on our couches if we can't do this. And if we can't stick together, then what's next? We're just going to have bodies laying everywhere. We already got a shortage of 22,000 plus affordable housing around the city of Pittsburgh. We already have poor health care in our communities. And a lot of us, I'm not sure if you may know, but where you live at, your zip code represents who you are, how you will live, how you will thrive, what resources you have connections to, what health care will be provided to you. So if we can help bridge these gaps and stop evictions, because the mortality rate, I'm sure everyone is keeping track of the news. I'm sure everyone is reading the newspapers or just seeing what's going on around them or in their community. If not, go out and look around. It's happening. This is real, and it's not going anywhere. And it's going to stay if we don't step up and fight right now against these magistrate districts. They're putting families out, and it causes a lot of shame and trauma. You don't have no stability. If you don't have no shelter, then it causes families to, a lot of poverty, a lot of violence is going to go on. And as we can see, it's already going on, but the rates of it is just going up and up and up. Unemployment rates are sky high right now families can't work, businesses can't stay open, they can't feed their families either. Landlords and developers or the banks, whoever, tenants, we can't afford to live. And America is supposed to be the land of the free. But how are we free if we're trapped in our homes? We can't go out and socialize. We can't go to work to make a decent living in order to even live inside of your home. You know, so these are just some of the things that I wanted to present to you guys and talk to you guys about what's really going on out here, because everything is not always read to you. You know, you can read a book by its cover, but you literally got to open it and read it to really know what's going on. And I'm one of those people, I'm the boots on the ground. So I'm out here every day. I'm out here every day. Jacob's out here every day. He's going to magistrate districts. We're stopping at mass evictions. I'm taking food boxes to families. I've gone in my freezer and my cupboard or to the food pantry, picking up food and taking it around to families due to lack of transportation. For one, the lack of transportation is the rate on that. I don't have the data right now, but if Jacob could get that pulled up for us with the data for the demographics on where how families are losing their homes left and right and losing their lives left and right. And the more homes we lose, the more mortalities we'll have on our hands. You know, our seniors are affected. They can't come out. Our holidays aren't the same. Families are depressed. You can't see one another. You can't go out and talk to your neighbors. You know, you can't get a fresh breath of air. So it's just so much going on right now due to this pandemic. And we need to figure out a way that we can keep families safe and children and our seniors. We have to figure it out. And that's the mission that we are looking forward to right now. And that's what we're facing. So that was pretty much the whole purpose of us putting this pledge together this evening. And we would appreciate anything that you guys can do. Volunteering, you know, if you drive and you have transportation, if you know of a resource that your neighbor doesn't know about, share it. Word of mouth is powerful. So how much time do we have? Because you guys, I can go on and on and on.
Well, we do have about 4 questions already. So, you know, and we have about 35 minutes left. So I wonder if I can, you know, maybe give some questions, because you've raised some issues for people already that people just wonder about. And so here's one of the questions that have come in. Can you say a little bit more about this moratorium, the evictions moratorium, and what that actually means? And you know, and there is a training that this person has heard about, and if you could say something about that as well. So if you
training on what's the training
on how to make phone calls to help people become aware of their right to not be evicted, you know, if they have a particular form filled out. So it's a big, long question. So I think if we can start on, what is this evictions moratorium about? And
okay, so the eviction moratorium is to stop mass evictions for private landlords, public landlords, and landlords putting families out of their home. So we put a round table together and we went to all our state representatives and all the communities. We went to the senators. We called our senator's office. We went to our mayor's office, and we went to Kim Clark, the judge downtown, Kim Clark. So the moratorium was put in place to keep families actually housed during the pandemic. Because where are they going to go? Right. So the moratorium was set into place. I think it was like March the 13th. I'm not for sure on the exact date, but I'm sure it was, I think, March the 13th, the moratorium was set into place where no one could be put out of their home. So you couldn't put no one out, regardless if they couldn't pay their rent, if they were behind on rent for a few months. You couldn't go to the magistrate districts and file to have them come to court. And then 9 times out of 10 magistrate districts, as we know, per knows, the magistrate district and landlords have pretty good rapport with each other. So it's like the magistrate district is always siding with the landlords. So 9 out of every 10 families lose possession of their units. So that's why we put the moratorium into place, is to keep families housed. And then we came up with a solution to how we could help families that can't go to work and is currently unemployed get their rent paid. So they can't, PHFA came up with a program called the CARES Act. And they were a part of that. And of course, the money came from the federal government. They got the funding from the federal government. And we did an air table. So, and I'm not sure if you guys knew about the CARES Act fund that you could apply for to get rental assistance. So that was also a part of the moratorium. So the moratorium deadline was September the 30th. Then it got extended again. So we pushed and we kept pushing and we fought to get it extended, because as we know, COVID is still here, it still exists.
Right. So that was the next question, which was, and hasn't that been discontinued, but now it's extended? And so you just
it's been extended. So yes, extended. Okay. Right.
Now some people
been extended because, as we know, cases have risen. And the death, the numbers of the mortality rate has went up since COVID started back in March. Actually, I think the numbers are up much higher now than they were then, because we got a little bit of lax. Everyone did. We got a little bit of lax. Holidays came around. We just had Thanksgiving, you know, and when holidays come around, families want to see each other. We've been in the house for 8 months. And yeah, we could do Zoom and we could talk to people on the phone, but you can't actually have emotional feelings anymore for people, because you can't touch, you can't feel, like, you know, things are tangible to people. I'm a hugger. I like to hug. I want to hug on my mom and my grandfather.
Yeah, that's what we have at St. Brendan's too. We miss that a lot. We very much miss that a lot. Let me tell you something, Jayla, you know, we have about 7 questions have come through since you've been talking. Wow. Okay, thanks for your energy. And someone has asked a question, how do I submit a question? Just click on the chat at the bottom of the screen. Okay, so just so
that's what I was trying to prevent me from, was going into the chat. So I had asked Jacob if there were like questions in the chat, he could either pertain to them and try to answer them as best as he could, because I wanted to really stay visible while I'm on screen.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll give you the questions. Okay, so
that'll be fine. And I'll answer the questions as best of my ability, you know. And Jacob, if you want to expound on some things too, or piggyback off of it, if I left something out, hey, chime in for me, bruh.
Okay, so folks, if you want to ask a question, just go down to the chat, write it in there, and we'll get it. So here's a question. Can we pressure magistrates in any way to waive the court fees?
So that's a very good question. So we were just on a call with Judge Clem Clark, and I actually brought that up about waiving the court cost fees. So we haven't got an answer back from her yet, but I know that she has that on her to-do list. That is something we're looking into, is waiving fees, especially for families of low income or no income at all. So we're looking into waiving the fees. And that's another reason why we're doing campaigns and fundraising, so we can actually help these individuals and families pay these court fees. Because as we know, if you're already behind on rent and now you got $120, $130 court costs added on, and then a late fee, which might be $50.
Sure.
And then the constable fee for the constable to come out and put the notice on your door. Now you done jumped up and added another $300 onto the back rent that you already currently owe. So that's actually something that we're working on now. And that's the reason why we're doing campaigns and fundraising, because PURR would like to have the funds to actually pay families court cost fees if we can't get them waived.
Well, we have some good news. Then what? You know, when we started off on this, we had $750 that we had raised. Now, Karen has just sent me a note that we have $1,750 that has already been pledged. So we are just so thrilled to be able that this is happening tonight.
Well, I'm gonna keep talking.
So yeah, keep talking. So here's another question. Okay, which politicians, which levels of government have been most helpful, and what should we ask those people to do to address the situation? So what politicians, what levels of government have been most helpful to the cause? And
So,
go
sorry,
ahead.
go ahead, finish, Regis.
And so if we can identify them, and then what should we ask these people when we write to them or whenever we try to address them? What should we ask them?
Well, so our state reps have Summerlee, Jake Wheatley, Olivia Bennett, Byron Wilson, Daniel Lavelle, can't think of everybody's name right off the top of my head. Mike Doyle, Mayor Tom Murphy, Judge Kim Clark, as I was saying, like she plays a big part in us. She can shut everything down. She can stop the mass evictions by extending the moratorium, closing down the courts, closing down the magistrate district offices. That'll just put a stop to evictions, period.
Okay, I wonder if we can ask Jacob if he wouldn't mind, since you gave us some of those names. Could Jacob or someone, as we're going through this, just put in the chat 3 names? I know that the one name, the first name that you mentioned is on your website very prominently, Whitley or what?
Jake Wheatley.
Yes.
Yes, he's state representative, District 19.
Yes. Okay, so he would be a good person to contact, right?
Yes, he would definitely be a good point of contact.
What would we say to some of these political folks? What would be 2 good things to tell them that would support the causes that you work so hard for?
That we are aware of what's going on, and we're aware of the mortality rates. And yeah, Jacob, that's a good one. Rich Fitzgerald. I'm sorry, I forgot about him. I think that would pretty much underline it right there when you speak about death, because then they're going to have blood on their hands.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
So if you can elaborate on that and put your own wording into it, you know, as best as possible. But that right there just is explanatory enough, because we already see what's going on.
Thank you. A question about PURR. Okay, is PURR a volunteer organization, and how is PURR funded, if you are funded?
So we apply for grants through other organizations. So that's how PURR gets funded, through grants, and we have lots of volunteers. So we have the members of our PURR, and we do monthly membership meetings, and we have like a little small membership fee that our members pay. So it's like dues. So we pay like dues. So that pretty much keeps us afloat. And also, since we are a nonprofit sole proprietorship, I get a lot of resources. So we connect a lot of families to resources that we know are free of charge. So that's how we pretty much we stay afloat.
Okay, thank you. So here's a question around the donations, because some people weren't aware that this was going to happen tonight. So here's a question: what exactly do the donations from tonight go to? There are a multitude of needs, but what is being prioritized?
So it will go to immediate needs, such as rental assistance, keeping utilities connected, food insecurities, court costs, waiving court cost fees. So it'll go to things like that.
Okay, and thank you very much for that. And so here's another question. It's a really practical one. I need an address. This person is asking, I need an address to send help. I have a committee waiting for more details, which I have now. Could you give us some feedback?
Say that an address.
This
What do you
person
mean?
needs an address to send help to. So apparently financial or maybe even willingness to help make some phone calls. Like we're at St. Brendan's, we had a training that with I think the person's name was Jennifer, who gave us our training about a week ago, where she was instructing us on how we could get on a list of getting phone numbers from people who need some assistance with information around the moratorium on evictions. And then there was a form for them to present to the judge that if they would have it filed out, that then the tenant or the landlord could not at that moment evict them. So there's a lot of different areas.
So our address is 1131 Sheffield Street, Pittsburgh, PA 15233.
Okay, could we have that put in the chat room by somebody? I wonder if someone could do that as we go.
Again, that's 1131 Sheffield, SHEFFIELD Street, Pittsburgh, PA 15233.
Okay, and is there a phone number that that people can call if they want to get any?
Jacob, I think he put in the chat box 448-444-8497.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, and I can speak to that training real quick because that was part of the program that I put together. The night that y'all did the training,
yeah, mm-hmm.
the county president judge released a court order extending her own sort of moratorium on eviction, basically meaning no more hearings can start. And so the thing that we were trying to do, that we had trained y'all to do, became irrelevant a few hours after we trained y'all on how to do it. We will take a lot of that same framework to take some of those same folks, if y'all are willing, to call people who have appeals or late appeals that they could file to try and keep them in their homes and jam things up that way. It was just, we were glad to see that order extended, but yeah, sorry about that.
And she put the info up.
Okay, and then I've noticed that a lot of material has appeared in the chat room now. So lots of addresses given there, and many of them twice or three times. Okay, so we do have our list of addresses, handy for people. Okay, so we have another question here, and thank you for that. Why are evictions going on if there is a moratorium?
Because landlords have always been able to do whatever they want to do. And like I said, magistrate districts have these rapports that they have built with landlords over the years. So they're always just going to be in their favor. So that's why this is going on. But me and Jacob do things like we go out to communities, we go out and door knock. A lot of families get in touch with PUR and let us know, like, hey, I received an eviction notice. And right then and there, we go into action. Mm-hmm. So we'll read the eviction notice. Mm-hmm. If we don't understand the legal language that's in the notice, we have a housing attorney that we will refer it to. And then we may send them a referral out to Neighborhood Legal Services, which is one of our partners. Mm-hmm. And we will get them legal representation for free. And then we'll go to court with them. So there's a few other ones, like, what's the other one, Jacob? Community Justice Project, the JMP, and this is housing. Sorry, Jacob, I cut you off.
Oh no, you're cool. Bob Damewood helps us with some of the legal stuff, regional housing legal services.
That's why I was saying our housing lawyer. I just didn't use his name. But Bob Damewood is our housing lawyer. So he helps us out with a lot of legal stuff. Swain Uber helps us out with a lot of our legal issues. And then we, Kevin Quisenberry as well. And then we take it from there. So a lot of times, Jacob will go to court with the families, or I will, and advocate for them and speak for them. And, we'll always provide them with a pamphlet of their rights and responsibilities as a renter, and Pennsylvania is the state of just cause eviction. So the only reason that you could actually be evicted out of your home in the state of Pennsylvania is to non-payment of rent, unless your lease specifies it in black and white letters that due to criminal activity or you fail to the landlord doesn't renew your contract or something like that, then you can be displaced that way as well. Other than that, 9 times out of 10, we put up a good fight, and I have personally myself stopped since the pandemic 7 evictions.
Oh, well,
personally stopped 7 evictions, had 7 families rent paid, which I think my most, the highest amount for a family I got paid was $7,200. So
wow.
$7,200, I had a family that far behind on rent, and she was facing an eviction.
Come on. Wow. Wow.
And this work is not easy. This is day in and day out of phone calls, emails, texting. A lot of people don't answer the phone, or at work, or they're doing something. Moms, they're not just moms anymore. We became teachers. We're teaching. I myself teach 3 different grade levels. I teach 2nd grade, I teach 4th grade, and I teach 6th grade, Monday through Friday in my household, because I have a 2nd grader, 4th grader, and a 6th grader in my household. So this is something that's all new to us, and we're getting adjusted to it.
This is fairly new, isn't it? Like the PUR is fairly new from what I could pick up in looking at things. And you had a summit within the year or something?
We had a housing summit 2 years ago.
2 years ago.
Last November,
last year. We had a housing summit. We've had a housing summit.
It's been a couple of years this year.
Couple years in a row. It says in our first year.
Okay. Oh, I see.
Right. So PUR has been a mobile unit. We just really established it within the last year or so. We were under another umbrella called the Landless People Alliance.
Okay, yeah. So I saw that.
Right.
There. Okay, here's a question.
We've been around for about 5 years now.
Okay, one of our participants has heard of eviction defense networks being used in other cities that prevent an eviction in process. It's been 100% effective. Have you considered that?
Yes. We reach out to all kind of other tenant organizations, Philadelphia, New York, Atlanta, all over the nation, and before COVID, Jacob can't show you the images right now, but I'm one of the ones that go around the nation to other housing conventions. So I've been to Washington, D.C., Atlanta, New York, San Francisco. I've been to a lot of housing conventions to partner with other tenant advocacy groups, so we can pretty much branch off of one another and get ideas from one another. And we also learn when we're at these conventions.
I see.
To speak to that team idea though, because this is something we have done trainings on, is like, how are you going to get people to stand between the landlord and the law or whatever, and you and your home when they're trying to put you out? And 100% success rate. I don't know about all that, but like, it is something we've done with some success. But like, when we're talking about the ongoing violence of this, that's no joke. Like, there was a call in Hazelwood a few weeks back where some of our folks showed up, and it wasn't just that they sent the constable to put the little paper on your door. It was, here's the paper on your door. You and your 4 kids have 30 minutes to get whatever you've got, and that's it. We're locking the doors behind you. If you don't, we're going to arrest you and take your children away, called CPS. And they did so with the backing of 8 different units from the Pittsburgh City Police. Like, this is what we're talking about with the ongoing violence. This is what we're talking about, landlords and the government hand in hand trying to tear apart families. Family separation is not a conservative policy. It's a bipartisan one, and it happens all the time. And that is what we're fighting constantly with this. So to give you an example of how we go about that is, you know, someone calls and says, oh, I got to appeal this eviction. It's going to cost them a couple $100, which is also the filing fee they already got hit with. But they don't have it because they don't have the rent in the first place. And that's the kind of things we're filling the gaps with, to give people a chance, to buy them some time, to literally keep the jackboots of the state and the police state and their landlords and the government off of them for a minute, to try and figure something out. Like, the violence is not hypothetical or abstract, or it's goodbye, you don't have a family anymore. Cheers.
Thank you. Someone asked a question. Well, can you explain what a eviction defense network is? And then someone in the chat then says, well, a defense network is a group of people who go to an eviction in process and stop it. So that I guess is the answer to that question. Would that be correct? So a eviction defense network is, you know, a group of people who go to an eviction in process and stop it.
Right.
Yeah, we have a very specific training, but
okay. Oh, and you have training for that?
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. Okay, so that might,
y'all
we're looking for to-do steps. That might be something. Okay, here I think you kind of like hit on this question already, but just a little bit more. It says, so tenant councils.
Tenant council.
How do tenants organize?
So tenants organize amongst themselves. So I'm dial myself back because I talked about that before I started going into talking about PUR and what we do and why we're here tonight. I spoke a little bit about on how I got into this lifestyle of tenant organizing. So tenants organize amongst one another. So I went around door to door because, like I was saying, I had a lot of maintenance issues within my home that wasn't being pertained to by the landlord. They were just taking my rent money, but they weren't coming about the mold that was in my unit or the rodents that was running around or the 2 windows that I had fallen in the middle of winter and shattered glass everywhere and took them 7 hours to come and board it up. So, you know, at some point in time, you know, I got real depressed and my home became an eyesore to me. Mm-hmm. So I started going around. So as a tenant, I started going around knocking on other neighbors' doors that lived in the same apartment building as me. Talking to them like, hey, how you doing? I'm your neighbor, Jayla, if they already knew me or if they didn't. How are your living conditions here, if you don't mind me asking? Because I'm experiencing, I was without a stove all summer long. My kitchen caught fire. I was without a stove all summer long, and I was cooking on a kerosene grill and feeding my kids gas all summer. Unhealthy, using charcoal and lighter fluid. That's not healthy. And I was just explaining some of the things to them that was going on with inside of my home. And they were like, yeah, me too. Oh, my light switches don't work. I had a flood last night. They never came. I got mice running around in my unit. There was mold on my 3rd floor. So that's how tenants organize. So you go around door to door, you door knock, you know, and then we started having meetings. So me and 4 other ladies that weren't scared, because sometimes landlords give kickback. You know, if you call the health department on them or you file a complaint against them, you know, some of them will give kickback and try to send you an eviction notice because you complained about a maintenance issue that you reported weeks ago that's never been pertained to. But my 2-year-old son's lungs are infected, and now he got spores because he's been inhaling mold for 12 months.
Wow.
So we started going to the health department. Does snitch on you, Jacob. And instead of the health department coming out to actually do investigation, they send a letter to the landlord and be like, hey, Jayla Rucker called and filed a complaint against you, saying that her roof is leaking and she got mold and rodents running around her house, and you guys haven't did anything to fix it, and we're going to give you 6 weeks to take care of it. 6 weeks? And then the landlords, that's how the landlords give kickback. So many tenants refuse to speak out about the maintenance issues or what's going on inside of their home because they're afraid of the kickback. So that's how I was able to just only get about maybe 4 or 5 ladies to actually engage with me. So another part of the organizing what we did is we started reaching out to the news, the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette. You guys can Google a Pittsburgh Post-Gazette and Housing Authority takes back Penrose management, and you'll actually see the whole article on that I myself and 2 other ladies that was president of my tenant council back when we first started, and another member of the tenant council, how we actually got this thing off the ground. Yeah, and we started reaching out.
I think I have.
And we started reaching out to our state representatives. Like I said, Daniel Lavelle, he's the councilman here in my community where I live at. So I live in District 7. Is this 7 or 6? I think this is 6. I'm not sure. I think this is 6. So we started doing things like that. We did a little small fundraiser, and we put together like a little call sheet. It's called a script. We put together and we gave to some volunteers that seen what we were doing in the community, and other neighbors started coming out like, hey, what you guys out here doing? You know, we did a community cleanup. We did a fundraiser. We got some money together. And we actually got our own private inspectors to come inside of our units and inspect our units. They were pillar to post is who we actually got to come in, because the maintenance man, he comes in and he tell a lie to them. He's not going to tell them, oh, you need to fix this or do that, because he works for them. That's how he get his paycheck. That's how he feed his family. But pillar to post came in and did their reports, and we took those reports to HUD, to the Board of Charitable Organizations, to downtown to the mayor's office. We went downtown to Councilman Lavelle's office, and then we went to his board as a whole. So that's how tenants can organize, you know, and it was very time consuming, you know, so we were meeting weekly, maybe 2 days a week, and we didn't have no space to meet in. So we were meeting in one another's homes.
Jayla, thank you for that. I just want to make sure we get these 2 more questions in, because we're down
get them in, Regis.
2 minutes. You know, now I just want to call people's attention to, there's been so many things posted. Jacob has posted some really important information. Julie put that Post-Gazette article in that Jayla was just talking about. And then there's a real quick question there about, someone asked about the news media, and I think you answered that. Are you involved with the Bar Association who does pro bono work for tenants?
So Neighborhood Legal Services will send a tenant, they have to get a referral sent over.
Okay, all right.
So I will refer a tenant to Neighborhood Legal Services.
Okie doke. And then here's one here. This probably relates to that you may have something to tell us about this. Is there a spike in Pittsburgh in affordable housing demolition? So in other words, affordable housing is decreasing?
Affordable housing is decreasing. It's been decreasing over the decades. Jacob is actually showing you here. So since 2010, I'm going to go back to 2010, a decade. I'm going to go back that far. So in 2010, if you can look at this data that Jacob is showing you.
Okay, yeah, we can see it here.
So there was such thing called redlining back in like the 60s, where Black people could only purchase homes in certain communities.
Yeah.
Okay, so if this map shows you here, where it shows you by race, you see it shows you by the race and the length of time. So this is from 2008 to 2018, the mass eviction of public housing. So housing developers such as the Housing Authority is one of our biggest crooks in the city of Pittsburgh. And the Housing Authority demolished over 1,000 plus something units all over the city in order to privatize these units. So say they had a community that they went into, and I'm gonna say Brawhead in Westgate. There were 600 something families that used to live in these communities. They did a project where they said they want to do a redevelopment, right? And then that way they can start offering families Section 8 vouchers that displace them and move them out of their communities. They can offer them a home ownership program, or they get the right to return. It's called the rights to return. But 9 times out of 10, the rights to return doesn't always happen, Regis. So they tore down 600 something sustainable units and put back none.
Wow.
None in Broadhead Manor. They tore down 400 at first. I think they left about 200 and something families there, and then they just disappeared totally. So then they come back with this privatizing. So they end up selling they get a private property manager to come in and manage the property. And then that way, Housing Authority, it's still their land, but somebody like Trek Development, McCormick and Barron, BCJ, I'm sure you guys heard of some of these developers and property managers that come in. Penrose Management was one of the private property owners that used to currently own the units that I currently reside in now. And that's just what they do. So that's how they do a lot of the demolition. So they downsize the units.
I see. Yeah. Wow. I mean,
Regis,
that's eye-opening. Yes.
Regis, I want to give you an update because we're kind of stuck at this number.
Okay.
We're stuck at 1750. And so Julie, if you could put up the phone numbers again to call myself or to call Donna and make a pledge. I'm going to be a little Jerry Lewis here, but we are trying to get to a goal of 2,500 for tonight. And so it would be terrific if we could get a few phone calls here, and we just have a little ways to go to get to that number. So Donna and I are both waiting for our phones to ring. All right.
Okay.
Did we have any other questions, Regis? We're going a little over time here.
Yeah, I'm doing my final.
Hi, this is
yes,
Karen.
there's one more thing that we didn't cover. Let me see. I just moved it. Rent spiking. Is there such a thing as rent spiking?
Yes, rent has went up. So that's okay. So I'm gonna talk about the AOMAT. So the AOMAT is your area medium income. So say you live in a community like mine, and I live in Manchester. Manchester was one of those communities that was redlined. So only Black families purchased homes down here because they were affordable. You could buy a 4 or 5 bedroom house for like no more than $60,000 back then, right? So now that Manchester, a lot of people are moving from the suburbs back into the city. Manchester is a community that's connected to 3 major highways, 376, 279, and Route 65. And the casino and the ballparks and North Shore. So the rents are going up because we have people moving into our community who make $120,000 when I make $36,000, right? So they got to level it out. So rents are starting to spike because the person to the left and right of me are homeowners, right? And they're doing updates and redevelopments on their property. So, the value of your property goes up. So now the landlord next door is like, oh, I want to sell because these people want to buy these nice Victorian style homes that are all brick here that can be worth some money because they're going to renovate them and gut them out a $60,000 house that they probably bought for $1 off the URA because it went to eminent domain. And then they flip the house and sell it for $300,000 on the market. So then that causes my rent to go up. And then a lot of things go by income as well. But as we know, they go by your gross and not your net pay. So I might have grossed $1,400, but I only brought home $1,100. So they go off of your gross and not your net. So there is a spike in rent, like landlords are going up due to the AOMAT, and that's considered the area medium income.
Well, Boy, you know, it looks like we could use a couple more hours. You know, Jayla, you and Jacob here.
I need another water on that, Regis. I mean, I can talk all night, Regis. I'm one of them, and I can
Well,
answer any and every question
you
that
are
you need
committed,
to answer.
and then how do you manage so much to get so much done with 5 children? And you know, it's just amazing. So thank you so much for what you shared. But I want to ask you one more question because it's such a practical one, and it can be a very quick one. Could you tell us 2 things that we can do to help? Okay, in addition to pledging and whatever financial donations. So as you evaluate things, 2 specific things that are most important for us to do.
So sharing the resources, like I was saying, like word of mouth would be good to spread the word. And we can send you a list of like resources for family to where they can get connections with rental assistance, utility assistance, food insecurities, maybe some community hubs where children can go and learn because there's a shortage of childcare and some moms still have to go to work. They don't have that capacity or that ability to work from home because their jobs don't offer the telework, you know. So that could just be something like you could just share a host of resources out for us, and that would be good. When we do some phone bankings, you guys could volunteer and we would send you like a spreadsheet with some names and numbers, and then we would give you like some talking points, and those are just what you would say to the families when you get them on the phone. And it's quick and short too, Regis, because it's an elevator speech. If you talk too long and you don't say enough, but you say too much, so you merge it all together and just say something real short and quick, but meaningful, you get people's attention.
You did it, Jayla. Thank you very much for that.
And I call it a warm hand. It's called a warm handoff, Regis.
There we go. Thanks. Well, well, I think we need to close for tonight then. So thank you very much, Jayla and Jacob, for what you've done for us tonight. You've done a wonderful job of helping us navigate these waters through evictions and what's going on, opened our eyes to many, many things. And so before I wrap up, I want to also acknowledge the great work of Donna Ayala, Karen, Dennis, and so many from our justice ministry here at St. Brendan's and our justice team, what they're doing to guide St. Brendan's and so many of us developing our anti-racism programming. Thanks also to those who submitted questions during this webinar, and to Pastor Julie Smith, who was working away in the background to handle the technological aspects of this forum. So in a 1-hour program, of course, one can at best scratch the surface of an issue as complex and as emotional as eviction. So St. Brendan's will continue working on, in the weeks and the months ahead, some more topics of interest around Black Lives Matter and around our moral call from the gospel to help as Jesus would. So the easiest way to keep up with future programming that we have is simply to visit our webpage from time to time. The URL is easy to remember. It's www.stbrendans.org, and we will post there and on our Facebook page news of our activities and of our future plans. Again, thank you for joining us tonight, and have a good night.
Regis, can I give you the total for tonight?
You absolutely can, Karen.
Okay, we're at $2,300.
Nice.
So we are just $200 shy of our goal, though.
Oh, that's amazing. Yeah, that's amazing. That is so.
Yeah.
So
my phone is still on.
Yeah. And my phone will be on as well.
Okie doke. All righty. Well, thank you everybody who had responsibility for making this go, and happy holidays to you all, and be safe. Be safe.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone. Thank you so much. Karen, if you need me, reach out to me.
I will.
All right.
Okay. Thanks, Jayla. Thanks,
Right,
Jacob.
thank you all.
Thanks, Donna. Good night.
Good
night. Good night, everybody.
Good night, Regis.
Right.